I don't know if you've noticed this, but there are a ton of major records that have crazy beat switch-ups in them. I'll name a few. Travis Scott's Sicko Mode, Drake and 21 Savage, Jimmy Cooks, Mac Miller's Self-Care, Kendrick Lamar, Mad City, and T Grizzly's First Day Out, just to name a few. And on top of that, these are some of those artists' biggest songs. So we're gonna talk about how the top producers make these beat switch-ups flawlessly and how you can add them into your beats to make them too. And who knows, you just might end up making an artist's biggest song. So let's jump right into this. Before we jump in, please smash that like button because this video is more than likely going to get copyrighted claim because we're going over all of these songs. Alright, so let's start by looking at a fairly simple method for doing these beat switch-ups. The first one we have to take a look at is from the song Jimmy Cooks by 21 Savage and Drake. This one works by having the beat drop out for about a half a bar and then a vocal saying, "Get out my face, N-word," directly followed by the second beat's melody and 808s for a few bars before all of the drums come in and introduce, and then 21 Savage also jumps in. So if you were making the beat, all you would have to do is drop it out about a half a bar early, and then bring in that second melody and 808 for a few bars before you bring in the rest of the drums. And of course, for all of these examples we're going to talk about today, you're going to want to make sure that your sound selection is on par and doesn't sound crazy in the mix. The next one we're going to look at is extremely similar to the last one we just talked about, and that's Life is Good by Future and Drake. This one also works by dropping the beat out a half a bar early, which is then followed by Future talking about how good his life is. But unlike the last song, after that section, the beat drops in fully with Future just going crazy. And then as for the beat, you would do sort of the similar thing as the last one by dropping it out about a half a bar early and then giving about 2 or 4 bars of dead space so that the artist can go in there and talk their thing before the actual switch up. But now let's take a look at a more complex approach to these beat switch ups. The next one is DNA by Kendrick Lamar, an absolute classic. This switch up is a little more iconic because instead of just pausing for a few bars, the beat stops, Kendrick starts saying, "I got loyalty, got royalty inside my DNA," and then you start hearing a news anchor in the background talking about the state of rap music, which is followed by a vocal chanting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you guessed it, the beat drops on that last one. And this just works so dang well. On the producer's side of things, you heard that they dropped the beat out for a couple bars there, then they added this little stab effect that plays over and over to keep the tempo as Kendrick Lamar was saying his thing. Then came in that voice talking about the state of the rap music in the background, followed by the voice that is counting down from 5. Then after the countdown came that second beat. So this one's obviously going to be a little more work, but in my opinion is way more artistic than the other ones we looked at. But not every Kendrick song switch up goes that crazy. In fact, let's take a look at another one of his iconic song, Mad City. For the switch up on this one, it's merely just a static TV noise effect, followed by the next beat dropping right in. As you can hear, the beat dropped out for about a half a bar or so, and then the static sound played, with the next beat coming right in. So as you can see, not every switch up needs a crazy transition, it's just gotta work in context. Alright, so before we take a look at another complex switch up, let's take a look at an easier one that pretty much any producer could pull off. This one just switches up, no pauses, no introductions, straight to the point. This one is the First Day Out by T Grizzly. And while the first section may just be a melody and not technically a full beat, the switch up is just as prevalent and iconic as the other ones. So for the beginning of this song, the melody plays for a while as T Grizzly speaks on his life and introduces the song. And a little ways into the song, it abruptly changes to the second melody. You can hear a stab playing on the introduction of every bar for the first 4 bars, followed by another bar of just the melody playing by itself. And that's when the 808 and snare come in and the beat is going. And then as you keep listening, you'll hear the hi-hats get introduced and then taken away again to keep the energy in the buildup of the song going. And another extremely similar approach to that last one is Dreams and Nightmares by Meek Mill. This also happens to be an introduction type of track, so I almost wonder if T Grizzly's First Day Out took inspiration from this song since this one came out first and they both have a super similar structure. This one also starts out with a very emotional melody and abruptly switches to a choir 808 and a bell perk with the snare and another synth lead following later on 4 bars down. And then the hi-hat also comes in a little bit further down as well. Sound familiar? Now let's talk about what might be the most iconic switch up of all time, and that's Sicko Mode by Travis Scott featuring Drake. And this one is super creative because not only does the beat switch up 2 times, yeah, you heard that right, it switches up twice, it uses existing elements from the beat for the switch up. The first switch up happens shortly after the first drop with Drake saying, "Young the Flame, he in Sicko Mode." His vocals have a crazy stereo delay effect on them with some distortion and a big reverb as well. And that is followed by 4 bass stabs that become the main 808 or bass instrument in this next beat. The second switch up takes the same approach as the first one by introducing those 4 bass stabs again, but then that's followed up by more bass stabs that have a glitchy effect to them. And then at the same time, you hear the vocals saying, "Don't play us for weak." And what's going on with these vocals is they're ping-ponging back and forth in the foreground of the beat. And just as you think that glitchy bass stab is gonna hit for the 4th time, it switches up and the beat actually drops instead, so it leaves you like, oh shit, that just happened. And the beat dives in with that punchy click, those saucy hi-hats, and that awesome bell melody. So now that you know how the most iconic switch-ups of all times were created, the only thing that's left to do is start implementing them into your beats. But first, you might want to grab all these free plugins so that you can start making super professional quality melodies.